This is my opinion, because I was raised in Christianity. As I was going through my process of growing up and developing and learning and looking at things on my own, this was around the time when the internet was kind of brand new. Sure, because there's a span of time, but about 5 years or so after the internet came out, there wasn't very much going on there. Nobody really knew how to use it. You know how it is. Anyway, I was doing a lot of research and study on all kinds of things I thought were interesting, like everybody does. Focusing a lot on UFOs and trying to find what the internet shows about where the Bible talks about UFOs. Are there UFOs in the Bible? Back in that time of thinking, I hadn't studied anything about mysticism or metaphysics or knew anything about symbolism. Never even thought of it at that time. And a lot of my focus, besides ghost videos and stuff like that, because I really found that interesting back then, was Christian-oriented. I can remember listening to a lot of different Christians, so-called Christians, say that they had near-death experiences or visited hell for 3 days, or had a vision of Jesus or something like that. Those who claim to have been in Satanism or into the occult and now they're out of it and they've got all this knowledge about it. It's all just not true. Even if there are some points of truth, because there's a lie in any shape, way, or form, the whole thing is contaminated. And I'm not even going to get started on preachers and pastors that are just completely outrageous. I don't know how you don't find that one. That's what it seems to be. You listen to the way they're talking and what they're basically compelling the audience to do. They keep people fixated on an exoteric form of thinking about things and shunning and denying and calling the devil upon all things that are mysticism. I can remember one guy. His name was Billy Crone. I actually liked listening to him back then. He had some pretty interesting information to be aware of. So I can remember one time I was listening to him and he went on talking about Confucius and he kept referencing him as Confucius, the confused one. I don't even remember everything he said anymore, but I do remember that he was putting it down and basically telling the audience. The people sitting before him in the pews who just gave money and stand up and sit down and stand up and sit down and sing a little bit and shake hands and go through the whole ritual. I remember him basically, without saying it directly, saying, "Don't even look at this. I looked at it for you, and I'm telling you now, you don't even need to look at it. This is against the Bible and it's the devil." So they're all like, yeah, okay. Basically, the pastor, by talking the way he's talking about it and the way he's framing it, is compelling the whole audience to never even look at it. But I think any teacher would say that if you truly believe that something is your enemy, you would want to go and learn your enemy and do as the word that you hold in your hand says, love your enemy. But instead they carry sarcasm and hate, and both hands are full of lies. Yeah, there was another Christian guy I used to listen to. I don't remember his name. He had some kind of pigmentation problem with his face. Half of his face in a weird shape was really red. I noticed that. Anyway, he basically said, without explaining everything, stay away from Manly Palmer Hall. He mentioned something about him saying something or doing something that was attacking the Bible or something like that. And I was like, well, I've never heard of this guy before. And you're basically telling me to stay away from him. So me being me, I guess I had only one thing to do. Let me go check him out. And that's where all of my interest in occultism and symbolism and metaphysics and inner reflection began. The opening up and tearing down of the old and moving into this began right there. That's when it started. That's when I started learning about this person, and through this person, I learned about another person. I got into philosophy. I started learning about all the different worldviews. It took some time though, because I was raised in Christianity. Not a very strong Christianity, but the label anyway. So for a long time I was doing like the Christians do, talking about the man Jesus and telling everybody what I had to say in Christianese, more or less. And just really, in my true heart of hearts, knowing I didn't have any answers. I didn't really know anything. I didn't really know how to believe in what I was saying. But I had to sound believable when I was talking and carry the same energy and speed of speech. You know what I mean. It's just a mind game. It's an ego trip. It's a power trip. And it's all coming from ignorance and self-righteousness. A lot of hypocrites. Because I can remember carrying a secret hate with me. I thought, if these people don't do what I say, that means they're going to go to hell. That means I hate them because they're all evil. You start to say things like that to yourself. That small little voice in your head hates them. It's really unbelievable. In case it's confusing what I'm talking about, I'm basically saying that the Christian has a secret hate for everybody. That's why you'll notice that a lot of how I talk about Christianity is in a certain way different than all the other worldviews. It's just because I was raised in it, and I had a chance to very clearly see how it actually works from the inside. It's not true in the way it's being presented by most of what Christians present. They don't know what they're talking about. They haven't looked at both sides. They won't embrace it. It's really frustrating. It makes me very angry, actually. It shouldn't, but it does, because whenever you're passionate about something, it affects you emotionally. But I always have faith in the Father, and I know that perfection produces perfection, and all is holy and all is forgiven. And this is like a dream, so you just let the work be done. I try to remember that. Because what they're telling you to do and how to think, keeping you stuck in that box of exoteric thinking and worldly consensus, it's no wonder people are struggling so hard to overcome this world and have self-control and express themselves truly and honestly. Because everything is built upon a lie. I'm going to try to explain why I say that I think this is all just a lie. Not only because the people are lying. They're adding on, they're taking off, they're over-exaggerating, and they're hoping that what they say is said in such a way that it could never be proved either way, and now you just have to take their word for it. Almost like if somebody comes in and says, "Oh, I'm sick," and you know they're not. You can't really say anything. I'm trying to explain why I think that this has very much become, or has become, something that I can call a lie. Even if there truly was a man 2,000 years ago whom we today call Jesus, Yeshua, Yehoshua, Yeshu, Isis, Jesus, Isa, Emmanuel, there are many different names that can be attributed to this. We'll just say Jesus. Even if that man that we call Jesus the Christ existed 2,000 years ago and walked upon the sands of Galilee, upon the hill of Calvary, before the place of the skull, Golgotha, and from Nazareth as Jesus of Nazareth. And even if there were followers. I'm trying to explain that no matter how we think of him historically, he spoke to somebody, he walked somewhere, he drank something, he spilled blood. He was seen by many. There is no absolute proof that the man Jesus ever existed. There is none. No matter how much we try to look to see how much he did exist, or how much we want to believe that he did, that's not what we're supposed to be concentrating on. That's not supposed to be what we're looking at. That is all symbolism. And if it's not seen as symbolism and it's taken literally, and you start visualizing a man, and for this picture of a man that has been portrayed as the image of Jesus, you hold that in your mind, you have been deceived. That's why I say it's a lie, because this is a balance of esoteric and exoteric. If you understand anything that I've been saying in my philosophy, from what I've come to understand in my epiphanies of concentration and meditation for many years of looking into all of this, and then thinking about it deeply, esoteric and exoteric are the same. Esoteric is the same as exoteric, but exoteric is not the same as esoteric. It is only one way. What ends up happening whenever a person is raised on only one side of the fence and doesn't find a balance from within themselves properly by understanding the way that philosophy and mysticism work together is that they begin to literalize everything. It ends up creating an idol. Exactly what the book that they hold in their hands says not to do is what they end up doing, because they're literalizing and becoming fanatical and holding a secret hate in their heart. They become prideful and arrogant and selfish, remaining childish, dressing themselves so that they can deceive. Look at me. I dress nice. I got a nice haircut. I don't use profanity. Look at me. Every sin that they have in their heart, they try to hide it. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, whenever I said earlier that there is no evidence that Jesus ever existed, it's not possible for that to happen in the way people claim. They did not find his DNA. Ron Wyatt is a liar. For all that he said he discovered and found, none of it is proven to be true. They did not find the Ark of the Covenant. They did not find Noah's Ark. They did not find sulfur that proves Sodom and Gomorrah. They did not find proof upon the Shroud of Turin that in any way, shape, or form demonstrates that Jesus existed. They also claim discoveries like Mount Sinai being located or identified with certainty, and Mount Hermon being the place where the fallen angels supposedly descended. These claims are presented as if they are proven, but they're not. None of it stands as confirmed evidence. You wouldn't believe the stacks of claims and exaggerations that build up when people strongly want something to be true. When someone already believes, they will accept almost anything that appears to support that belief. You have this picture that was made by man imprinted into our minds to show us what Jesus looks like, and now it resembles what? The cloth supposedly shows the image of a bearded man, but that resembles what many men of that time looked like when they wore a beard. I've looked through all of this information extensively because I found it very interesting. I wanted to believe. For a little while I did. But there's no evidence of the stone being moved, the tomb being empty, all of this. There's no evidence. Absolutely none. Any evidence that is proposed is speculation, theoretical, and proven, or simply a claim. It's not possible because what this symbol stands for is the infinite. That does not materialize within this world the way people think it does, even if something like it existed in the past. Remember the paradox of this reality. There is no past. I can say I remember yesterday. You can say you remember yesterday. But yesterday itself does not exist now. And I speak about this very often in my videos, where the present moment, now, is considered under the notion of the Trinity, which I describe as a 3, 6, and 9 paradox. I'm also not telling anybody not to look into Christianity or read the Bible. And if you are being raised in Christianity now, I'm not telling you to stop doing it. Continue your path. It's what you were given, the same as mine. It always leads you to where you are going to be. Ultimately, we really don't have a choice anyway. Even if it feels like we're making choices to move left or right, there is only one choice that can actually occur, and that was already done. In other words, we are being led upon the lines and curves of this reality back to the Father by the Son, because we are the Son and we are being obedient, because the Son is within. There's a lot more that I wanted to say about this, but I'm going to leave it at this. You can go and do your own research and study on everything that supposedly proposes proof of Jesus and his existence, and you'll begin to see beyond how I think, how it has become extremely fanaticized. There are many things being overlooked because the teaching is symbolic. Ultimately, it is a personal experience. So I'm going to end this talk here, and I'll talk to you guys later. Amen. Let it be so.